Hey there, it's Jessica, and we are talking about the third C, which is consistency. So this is the third video in a series called the 5 C's of Writing with Confidence. And inside this video, we are going to talk about the third C, which is consistency. If you have not seen the first two videos, video 1 was confidence, video 2 was community, and so today we're talking about consistency. So you can click, there should be a link below that you can click. Okay, so we're talking about consistency. Consistency is important, not just in writing, but in life. As with most teaching and pretty much getting better at anything in life, consistency is key. Writing is no different. It's being consistent with giving students time to write, consistency in conferring with writers, consistency in your instruction, because we know that students rely on routines and procedures. That's why we spend so much time at the beginning of the school year getting them ready, knowing exactly what to do when XYZ happens, how to sharpen their pencil, when to sharpen their pencil, and all that good stuff. So we spend all of that time doing those things so that they have expectations, they know procedures that you have in your classroom, and as a teacher, part of that is being consistent in having those procedures in place. So students rely on these routines and procedures because when they know what to expect, they're able to work independently and focus on growing as a writer rather than questioning what they should do next. So first, I want to address an elephant in the room. Even though our schedule allows for less and less time for isolated writing instruction, we cannot let that stop us from providing writing opportunities for our students. So I challenge you, one of the tips is to find 3 bonus areas in your day to create a writing opportunity. So that brings me to tip 1. Students write every day. If you are consistent with having students write in some way, shape, or form every single day, then they're going to be used to writing, and every time they pick up a pencil, it's going to become less and less of a struggle. So I know, because I live in the real world, that our writing instruction or our writing block has only gotten smaller and smaller with the amount of time that we're given. I know that. And I'm sure you know that, and we feel it. So maybe some days they don't get that full independent writing time that we would hope, that 30 to 45 minutes of absolute solid independent writing time. In an ideal world, and back in the day, that's what we had, but that's not really what most of us have anymore. So maybe some days they only write for 5 minutes, and other days they write for 30 minutes, just depending on how your block is set up. Maybe some days they are writing about science or math or in response to reading, in response to your read aloud or their independent reading book. But either way, they're writing. Somewhere in the day, they are writing independently. 5 minutes isn't the most ideal time, but it's better than nothing. I truly believe that. They need to be writing every single day. So if you know that your day is going to have little or no writing time in that day, then maybe do something like a journal prompt or some kind of writing inside your morning routine. So inside your download for the 5 C's of teaching writing with confidence, I get that, it's a tongue twister sometimes. I included some journal prompts just for this reason. These could be used after your morning work. If students finish their morning work, it could be part of their, okay, you're done with your morning work, get out your writing journal, writing notebook, and start working on the journal prompt. So for example, these are included inside the download. Meaningful Monday, they list 5 things they did over the weekend. They pick one and they write turn it into a narrative. So a narrative is a story at the beginning, middle, and end. And I spent maybe 5 minutes writing this one. I only wrote a paragraph, but I generated ideas and I started writing a story. So maybe it's not a complete narrative, but it's something. If you did that once a week, on the days that you don't really have a lot of writing time, so you don't have to make it like an everyday thing, but if you did that once a week for students to to do in the morning as part of their morning routine, that also gives them, first of all, they're writing every day. That also gives them time for a little bit more creative writing, especially in the upper grades. Everything can be so focused on state testing or academic writing, but I really think it's important that we build in some of that creative writing or writing about our experiences and personal narratives and things like that. But that's a whole other video, so I'll leave it at that for now. So those are included in the download that you can put inside your classroom. So Monday is Meaningful Monday. Tuesday is Book Teaser Tuesday, so they write about a book that they're reading. So Wednesday is Wordy Wednesday. What is your favorite movie, TV show, book, or comic book? And they make it a list of at least 20 words related to their topic, and then they use the words to write about their topic. So it's also taking into account their personal interests. I think that's really important. All writing doesn't have to be writing in response to a text or writing an essay or all of the academic writing that we know is required. I think just taking those small moments and small pockets of time to use it for more like personal interest writing, I think that's really valuable and definitely something our students need today. And then the one that's in the packet, Throwback Thursday, write about a day in the life of the kindergarten you. So they're kind of going back in time and picturing themselves as a kindergartner and writing in that perspective. So they're also practicing point of view. And then Friday is Figurative Friday, so they can write a poem or personal narrative about a friend, family member, or someone you admire. Use figurative language 3 times in your poem or story, and then it lists the figurative language that they can use. So those also almost completely match the ELA morning work. So what you could do is use the regular ELA morning work and then do like the journal prompt after the morning work once they finish it, just to kind of warm up for your day. Okay, so tip 2, and this kind of goes along with what I was just talking about. Find 3 bonus areas in your day to create a writing opportunity. So it could be the morning journal prompt. It could be when you're reading aloud, whatever book you're using to read aloud to your students. It could be writing in response or a quick write. So one way that you could do this is at the end of when you're reading your chapter book or novel in your classroom, you might say, all right, we're about to end this chapter. I want you to be ready to write at the end of this chapter about what you think the major problem this character is facing. And you're going to write for 3 minutes. I'm going to set the timer, and you're going to go. And you write the whole time, the entire time, no talking, where everybody's writing. That's one way to quickly build in some writing. And you can definitely have students, depending on how much time you give them, get up to a full page and writing. And it's definitely just a really good exercise to keep them writing, and them writing in response to reading. And it's their ideas, their thoughts, and just really great thing to embed into your read aloud. Also math journaling, like write to explain what a prime number is, or write to explain just some quick math journal prompts as well. Science journaling, so what is the difference between physical and chemical change? Explain. That's one way to do it. The journal prompts, like I said, and then just an independent reading response. So at the end of the independent reading time, have students get out their reading notebook and their independent reading book, which would probably already be out because it's independent reading time, and have them just take the last 2 to 3 minutes, set the timer, nobody's talking, everybody's writing. You're writing the whole time about what you read that day. And you could tie that to your mini lesson, whatever you taught in reading, or you could just let it kind of be a free write, like write about what's happening in your independent reading book. Okay, so tip 3 is to hold at least one writing conference every day. So this is really important. Even if it's just one, you are still being consistent with having writing conferences. A lot of teachers, this is one of the biggest questions that I get from teachers, is how to fit in writing conferences when when you have so little time. How do you do it? One of the biggest things that you can do is, first of all, incorporating small groups. That's one way, but just giving yourself a little bit of grace and just saying, I have to have at least one writing conference per day. So it doesn't mean that you just kind of pick and choose like who you want to confer with, but take some time to research the room and decide what your students need to make the most of each conference. You might use a checklist to keep track of the students you have met with, begin the conference with a compliment, then teach the writer something they can do. You can also pull a small group, like I said, based on some of the things that you see are needed in your classroom. And then you might also make a schedule so that you have like certain days you meet with the certain students, just so that you're meeting with all of your students consistently. All right, tip 4 in consistency is establishing and following predictable structure, routines, and expectations. So this means that in your lessons, you use a structure in your lessons and set clear routines and procedures during writing time. So your lessons are going to follow a structure, whatever structure it is you use. I use in all of my writing lessons and writing units a mini lesson structure. So that means that I start with some way to connect them with what we're learning. Then I teach them what we're learning by modeling it. Then I have them try it through the active engagement, and then they go off and try it on their own. So however it is that you structure your lesson, just stay consistent with it so students know how to expect it. Some days your lessons might be a little bit different. They might be more interactive or more hands-on, or maybe you found like a really fun, kind of more engaging activity that you do. But for the most part, most of your lessons follow a predictable structure. And then other things that need to be in place and that you have to set clear expectations with, so students are consistent with following them, so that their writing time doesn't get interrupted or distractions don't happen, is having a clear system for how do they sharpen pencils, how should their voices sound, how do they problem solve, which we talked about in the first video. How when you're in a conference with a student, what should everybody else be doing? Because that's huge. If you're trying to have a conference, then every other student in the classroom should know what they need to be doing in the classroom, or that you should be left alone. And then it's especially important to teach students what to do when you are working with another student. And the consistency part of this, because we have talked about this in the other video, it's important just to stay consistent. So when you're working with a student and you have little Johnny's always getting in trouble. When you have little Johnny come up to you and say, I'm not really sure if I like this introduction. What do you think, Miss So-and-so? Well, have some canned responses for that. One of my favorites is, I'm sorry, I'm not available right now. And I don't even answer what they're asking. I do not answer. And you can teach that later. But if you go to Johnny and you try to solve his problem with his introduction, then you're not being consistent with the procedures. You're not showing Johnny that, no, I'm really not available right now. So just having some canned responses when students do certain things, and then just reteach, what your procedures are, however you set up your classroom. So that's it for consistency. So just to recap, students should write every day. Find 3 bonus areas in your day to create a writing opportunity. Hold at least 1 writing conference every day. And of course, establish and follow predictable structure, routines, and expectations in your classroom. All right, so that's it for consistency. Stay tuned for your next video, which is all about communication. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, or you can reach out to me by email, jessica@theliteracyloft.com, and I will talk to you soon.